Simon Jordan, what have you got to say about this man? He's a legend, legend of speaking his mind. He's not scared to say anything. He doesn't care what public opinion is, as long as he's right, as long as he speaks his mind. Um, that's the most important thing for him. And as time goes on, you can see where he's coming from, and he probably agree with most of the stuff he's had to say about you know certain situations, certain um, opinion of certain footballers or business owners. Um, you just know he knows what he's talking about. You know, he may have taken Palace up and down, and he may have lost a fortune along along the way. But when you watch him and you listen to him, you just know he's an absolute, you know. Imagine going out with him on a night out. He's one of them guys. Like, yeah, your night will be absolutely great. By the way, you'll have a great night. Laugh, honesty, and everything in one. Frustration, anger, he boxed everything into one and turned it into Simon Jordan. Let's have a. If I he referred to himself as a bit of a Terminator. Here we go.
Stop until I get to what I want. I'm not controversial. I speak my mind. It's a trait that people in this country don't do, so it's called controversial.
Yes, he seems to have exploded onto the scene. A man with unrestricted views and opinions on everything football, boxing and sports in general. Is he the voice of reason? Has he got a dodgy haircut? But most importantly, where did he come from? You love him or you hate him.
When you're so invested, whatever you think of me and whatever people think of me, whatever Palace fans think of me, they can never, ever, ever question my commitment or my integrity. I got things wrong, I made mistakes, I said things that were wrong, but I always did it for the right reason. Now, that doesn't excuse mistakes, because good people aren't supposed to make mistakes. And when you're in charge of a football club, it's your responsibility to run it well. That's why I rail against the governance, because you've got to take away.
There we go. That's Simon Jordan for you all together, like in one. He just described himself there. But let's carry on with this proper boxing. Let's see what he's got to say, what he found out.
Him, but who really is the man behind the mouth? Mr. Simon Jordan. Oh, bloody hell. I've told my editor time and time again, that's not.
I'm a bit of a Terminator. I don't stop. I won't stop until I get to what I want. I'm not controversial. I speak my mind. It's a trait that people in this country don't do, so it's called controversial.
Yes, he seems to have exploded onto the scene. A man with unrestricted views and opinions on everything football, boxing and sports in general. Is he the voice of reason? Has he got a dodgy haircut? But most importantly, where did he come from? You love him or you hate him, but who really is the man behind the mouth? Mr. Simon Jordan. Oh, bloody hell. I've told my editor time and time again, that's not Simon Jordan. Nigel, will you fucking sort it out? Sorry. That's better. Yes, here he is, Mr. Simon Jordan. Born on the 24th of September 1967 in Thornton Heath, South London. Shithole. Anyway, he attended Purley High School for Boys in Old Colston. His talent for football did not go unnoticed as a schoolboy, signing on to the books for Chelsea and Crystal Palace, the Eagles being his childhood team, who his father had played for in previous years. However, in Simon's own words, mentally he was just not interested, and even though he thinks he could have gone all the way, the the application was never there. After leaving school, his mind for business quickly overtook his sporting dreams, and he saw a future in the now lucrative mobile phone industry. Now in this day and age, we struggle to live without our mobile phones. We can talk to friends. We can check our bank balance and we can surf the net. However, in the late 1980s, it was still just a futuristic pipe dream and regarded by many as a passing phase. But Simon saw the potential. He joined his friend James Wright selling mobile phones via adverts placed in Loot and Exchange and Mart under the company name Wright Connections. But like most first business ventures, the company achieved fuck all and the friends parted ways. Simon, however, used his knowledge in the industry to land a role in car phone warehouse at the turn of the 90s, along with another keen entrepreneur, Mr. Andrew Briggs. After a few years for the warehouse, Simon and Andrew felt they could compete with these outlets and come together to set up their own mobile phone retail company called the Pocket Phone Shop. They invested £15,000 each and began with just one unit in Slough. The venture was a good move. By 2000, the company had over 200 outlets nationwide, forecasting a turnover of 102 million for the financial year. The business was absolutely flourishing, and Simon had become a ruthless businessman. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, I like the geezer, but I wouldn't want to work for him. Fuck that. Anyway, this success caught the eye of one of the biggest mobile phone companies of the time, 1-to-1, who offered to buy them out for over 70 million. The pair accepted the offer, and Simon was now a self-made millionaire. He began to live the life. He bought the luxury cars, the Marbella villas, and went fucking mental with their hair dye. Bosh, no more ginger bollocks, rocking the curtains, fucking love it. Sorry. Anyway, Simon now had a fortune to do the things that he dreamed of and set about his next venture. One that was close to his heart, owning the mighty Crystal Palace.
And may I suggest that you...
Alright, let's dive into the Crystal Palace bit. But yeah, proper box today is just sick on narrating all these stories about certain individuals or in the limelight. It's just sick. Go check his channel out. He's sick of that. Right, if we go back now, Simon talking about Palace and and its integrity and everything else that comes with it. Here we go.
Now you see, this is different. The Derby County situation is different, Simon, because as we know, Mel is meeting with the players' coaches, academy staff this morning, and in as much as we know, he's saying that's it. I've thrown enough at this. I'm out.
Which is right to some extent. I mean, it's a double-edged sword because I try to be balanced and fair because there's one part of me that thinks, come on, Mel. Come on, mate. You made these choices. You made these decisions and you've got to own them. And if you've got the ability to continue, then you really kind of owe it to this position that you took on when you became the owner of Derby. There's the other side of the argument where I go, well, there's no nobility in the poorhouse. Why does he want to put himself in the poorhouse? Why does he want to ruin everything he's got elsewhere in his life for a football club? So I'm really torn between the two because I know what it means to the fans. I know what it means to the community. I know what it means to the people that work for it.
Well, that's right.
And Mel will say, well, I didn't do 200 million quid because I'm a miserable, horrible little curmudgeon. I did my best. But when you get to a point where, some of the decisions that you've made, nobody made you pay Wayne Rooney the money that you've made you pay. Nobody made you bring in, from what I hear, people that are in the coaching staff that are on ridiculous salaries for championship level people that have made you sign the deal and then have no real success with them. And all of those things lead you to a point where does your responsibility, both moral and financial, turn off against your self-preservation, against the right that you have as an individual to protect yourself? I nearly sent myself to the poorhouse, and wonderful. What did that achieve for my family?
What happened with you, though? I want to push a bit more, Simon, if I may.
Thank you.
I know you well enough. I mean, what voices were in your ears when you were at the most dire
not the right ones, apparently. I was just very brave, and I was very proud as well. And sometimes pride becomes before a fall. I believed, like some demented King Canute, I could command the sea to go back. And it wasn't a sea, it was a tsunami of problems that I had. And I was trying to fight it, unaware of the challenges that were going on, unaware of covetous eyes that were looking at it, waiting for me to fall over. That's just business sometimes, and it becomes more emotional when you're
this is him just being honest, just saying this how it is. What went wrong. He had all the millions, he had the girls, he had the cars, the mansions and everything, and here just him just completely letting it out, like, taking ownership, taking responsibility of what happened, and there's nothing else he could have done, apart from, the business going the way he went with him. Love him or hate him, this is Simon Jordan, his finest. Let's dive into it. He's gonna tell us what happened at Palace whilst he was there.
So invested. Whatever you think of me and whatever people think of me, whatever Palace fans think of me, they can never, ever, ever question my commitment or my integrity. I got things wrong. I made mistakes. I said things that were wrong, but I always did it for the right reason. Now, that doesn't excuse mistakes, because good people aren't supposed to make mistakes. And when you're in charge of a football club, it's your responsibility to run it well. That's why I rail against the governance, because you've got to take away the pressures. Mel Morris is a Derby County. That brings an extra factor into the equation that he would never, ever have envisaged that he was going to do 200 million quid, if that's indeed what he's done. I never envisaged that I was going to do the money that I did. Comparative wealth. In proportion of my wealth, I gave up far more of it. To back what? To back 10 years of a difficult time, often in an industry that's very disingenuous and unrewarding.
But then, do you wish that people had said stop? I mean, I've got to ask you, your dad,
my dad
played for Palace.
God bless him, yeah.
You would.
What did he say?
Well, I sought his advice while we're having this moment to share in this sort of rinsing of one's soul. I sought his advice summer, because I knew I was in trouble. And I knew no one was going to help me. And I knew that because my attitude was, when you start cocking a snook at the football world and you start telling people truths, right, they don't like it. They make sure that you have problems. So I knew no one was going to help me. And the only thing I was ever going to be successful with was by myself. So I said to my father, very simply, Dad, I'm in trouble here. What do you think I should do? And my dad, being my dad, believing that I was a racehorse, sort of said, you're still in the game, son. Keep hitting the ball back over the net. Now, that wasn't the greatest advice, because what it did was it made me hear what I wanted to hear. It gave me an excuse to do something that I knew probably I should have done what Mel did. I should have done what Mel's done, which is take away the responsibility on myself and put it to administration and say, well, I've got to save myself.
You regret that?
Yeah, well, of course I do, because I served nobody any good besides other people that got the football club. I cleared most of the problems. The people talk about Palace being £30 million in debt. It wasn't £30 million in debt. It was £30 million in debt because 23 of it was to me, and I wasn't calling it. So this nonsense I've had to listen to over the years, and I've written about it, and it's not time to serve this up. The difficulty for Mel is that Mel has more of a choice than I had, and the scale and the numbers I think are greater, but so is the wealth that's behind the people that own the football club. So we've all got to put it relative, but there is a right. Mel Morris does have a right to say enough is enough, and he will be a fundamental part of Derby's future, because someone has got to bankroll this administration. Someone has got to do something with this stadium, and Mel Morris owns the stadium and may well have the keys to the funding of the administration. So whilst it's tragic, Derby will not go bust. There won't be a liquidation. There will be a restructuring of Derby, and the quicker it can be done, the less damage will be done.
Yeah.
The main beneficiaries will be the administrators, of course, but unfortunately, this must be, these sort of things, as much as there's mismanagement in part, it also has to look at the governance of the industry. It's not because I'm seeking to make excuses. If you change the governance, we'll have a far better football pyramid for everybody, because not just Man United, not just Man City, every club.
Right, good point that is made there. Right, let's dive back into proper boxing here. Let's see what you found out as well.
You removed a sign saying situation vacant and replace it with one saying situation full. I'm your man.
Christ's sake, Nigel, I've told you that's not Simon Oh, fuck it, that'll do. Anyway, now the club at the time had some heavy financial troubles. Previous owner Mark Goldberg was unable to sustain his financial backing of the club, so it was then purchased by Simon through a mysterious Singapore financier named Jerry Lim for the princely sum of over 10 million. A dream on Simon's bucket list had been fulfilled, and he became the country's youngest football club owner at 32. Now the mighty Palace had recently been relegated during Mark Goldberg's reign, but after appointing himself as chairman, Simon promised promotion back to the Premiership within 5 years. Now we know Simon is a complex character. He's not everyone's cup of tea, which is probably why in the first few years at Palace, he went through managers like a pisshead goes through toilet roll after a dodgy fucking curry. Yes, 5 managers in just a few short years, until Mr. Ian Dowie took over. And, oh, for fuck's sake, Nigel. Ian Dowie, the footballer, you knobhead. Thank you. Yes, the handsome Ian Dowie took over, rejuvenating the club from relegation zone to the playoffs, then emerging victorious to once again take on the Premiership. Jordan had fulfilled his promise, but just 1 year later, they were relegated again. Brilliant. Soon after, Jordan told Dowie to get fucked. No point breaking the habit, I suppose. Boom. Anyway, now this was around the beginning of the decline for Jordan and the mighty Eagles. 2 more managers in Peter Taylor and Neil Warnock tried to return the club to the Premiership, and even though under Warnock's reign where the club showed their best form in years, once again reaching the playoffs, he and Taylor ultimately failed. By 2008, the club had begun to fall into deep financial trouble, along with Simon himself, and no buyers were coming forward. Then, after things had gone from bad to worse, just 2 years later, at 3:02 p.m. on Tuesday the 26th of January 2010, a court order via email was sent confirming the club was no longer in Jordan's ownership. A sad day for the Londoner. Now the financial catastrophes all over the world in 2008 had caused Simon to lose fortunes. He lost millions in the crash of the Spanish and American property markets. The failing of the Lehman Brothers caused him to lose a portfolio worth 4 million, and a deal with a big Spanish developer went wrong, leaving him being owed several millions. Along with all this, loans within the club totaling around 23 million, the initial 10 plus million he paid, and other financial involvements meant his hobby of owning his boyhood football club had cost him around 40 million. Above all this, he was once again ginger. Poor bastard. In his own words, he had had the shit kicked out of him.
You know, I lost a fortune, and it did affect me. Yeah. And it did affect me. In the book. Yeah, it did affect me, and it causes an impact.
But, ladies and gentlemen, this is Simon Jordan we're talking about. And if there's one thing that Simon Jordan doesn't do, it's sit there feeling sorry for himself, crying over spilt milk. He picked himself up. He pulled out the bleach and said, fuck it, let's crack on. And he did. In 2012, Jordan published his autobiography, Be Careful What You Wish For, telling the whole story of his rise and fall, and it received critical acclaim. Now upon owning the Palace, and with his flashy style, he had become a kind of celebrity figure, writing articles for The Observer and making major TV appearances. Now one thing Simon has never shunned away from, he has never backed down from, he's sharing his opinion. And the leading sports radio station TalkSport knew full well he was a diamond in the rough. They handed him the mic.
Let's get ready to rumble!
2018 saw his first feature as a pundit. 2019 saw him being nominated for Sports Pundit of the Year, and the success of his appearances eventually landed him a seat at the top table with Jim White, the station's flagship show. And now, here we are. Now, as I mentioned before, you either love this man or you don't. But I, for one, ruddy love this man. I think who better to comment on the financials of a football club than the man who has lived and breathed it? And who better to call out the sportsmen and promoters for their dishonesty or their faults than a man who has been there and now has nothing to hide? And who better for the entertainment of the public than a man who will tell it as it is, holding nothing back? What a ruddy legend. This has been the story of the one and only Simon Jordan. Now let's hope he likes this video, because I don't want to argue with him. He tie me up in fucking knots, you know what he's like. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you double soon. And oh yes, bosh.
Yo, you gotta love proper boxing, man. The guy's a legend. The way he just goes through the data, the detail, you know. He got himself out there. He goes through them so easily, so smooth. So smooth. He's just so smooth on the mic. But yeah, Simon Jordan, like, it's just one of, when you listen to him at TalkSport, it's just one of the most honest people you could come across. He doesn't mince these words. He doesn't care about your feelings. He doesn't care about your emotions. He tells it like it is. You know, love him or hate him. He's a legend of the radio station, the radio wall, or TV wall, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. In every community means something, and it can't just be. And what Mel was brilliant the other day, and one thing he said when he was put on the back foot by the BBC Derby reporter, saying, you've got to realise it's a privilege to own a football club. It's a privilege for 5 minutes. It's a responsibility. It's not a privilege. And to be a custodian of a football club is an onerous, difficult task, because most of the time you're going to get it wrong, and you're going to pay a lot of money to be told by people how stupid you are and how you can spend your money, but you can never tell them how they can spend theirs. People buy season tickets because they want to watch something and they want to support something. In the end, it's very easy to get in a football club. It's bleeding difficult to get out. And when you do get out, most of the time you get out with your reputation either damaged, your finances significantly damaged, and you haven't enjoyed the ride that much.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful game. It's a brilliant game. I sit here talking about football now because clearly I wanted to be involved in it. But by Christ, is it hard. And that's not me going, oh, look at us poor buggers that own football clubs. We all make our choices.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, if you change the governance, you make it better for everybody, and you've got a football pyramid that means everyone is surviving. When you see documentaries like Panorama talking about kids not being able to be given support when they release from football clubs, it's because the whole ecosystem is broken. People can't afford to have counsellors that let football players go. It's, all of those things come in together in a moving part. And it makes it sad. And it's sad for Derby fans, but I guarantee you that this club will not be liquidated. Guarantee.
Look at what's coming in. I mean, the messages are smart. Mel Morris, 100% owner, 100% his choices, 100% his liabilities. And now he's running away.
Yeah, but that's really
That's
easy.
not fair.
Honestly. He's not running away scot-free, though, is he? He's not running away unscathed.
No.
He's going to get his head kicked in reputation-wide. He's going to be emotionally challenged. He's had health issues in his own life. And he's done 200 million quid for this.
Yeah.
Yes, of course it's his decisions. But you didn't have a problem when he was going for it.
Yeah.
There is a flip side to every argument.
Will others follow Derby?
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Because unless you change this model, they can't not.
Yeah.
Unless you change this model, it will be a matter of time before the next club.
So you talk about damaged reputation, Simon. I mean, had it not happened at Palace, you wouldn't be sitting here with me at TalkSport.
And that's my very point.
There are upsides
no reputation left now.
There are upsides to this, my friend.
Legendary Jim White, the way it ended that whole thing there. But then you got Simon now talking to superstars, big stars in the sport, boxing, football industry. I've put together, I think, a few videos of Jordan himself chatting to certain people. Where is Eddie? Yeah, especially with in the boxing world, him and Eddie Hearn always going at it. I mean, it's all, business. And even with Frank Warren, man was going at it. And the funniest one would be Chris Eubank Senior. Simon is not scared to go after these guys or go toe to toe with these guys, but it makes all for business, for good business and good listening and good watch for some of us that watch them. So it is a good laugh. It's a good laugh, and I've come across some of the clips which I've laughed so hard, especially Eddie trying to come at Simon because he went bankrupt or whatever, bankrupted Palace. But as you've just heard there, where you've just listened to Simon, what he said, everything he said there to me sound like the truth. He needed help. Some people, where the investment, they went bust. There was nothing he could do. Then it's the same thing that's happening now currently with people like what's his name, Danny Murphy, you know. Oh, my network is dropping so low. It's mad. I need to get a good internet connection here, but I don't know which one is best. So recommend anything for us, please. But yeah, like I said, I found some videos of Simon Jordan going out with certain people. So the next one will be between him and Eddie. Let's listen to it.
Yeah,
You all right, Jim?
DAZN TV channel. I'm just trying to get this through my head. But where can we find it? A lot of people say to me, right, DAZN, where can I get it? Do I get it in this country? Is it easy to find? Is it instantly accessible?
So easy to find. But we also understand the world we live in, where a certain demographic of viewers would like to digest content in different ways. The new age of broadcasting is unquestionably streaming, but there is still still a large proportion of the market who like to watch it in a traditional manner. And I think when DAZN launched in this country, it wasn't with a view to have its own channel on Sky, but I think as it's evolved, and I think as well to counter the sort of propaganda and argument of, oh, you can't find this platform.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but obviously...
because some boxers have left DAZN because they don't want to be on it, because people tell them they can't find it.
No, fighters have left DAZN and us because we haven't been willing to pay the numbers that other people are who have no understanding of commercial reality.
Why did Josh Boazzi leave you?
Because he was talked to by certain individuals that were willing to pay him a large amount of money to fight on a platform that he's fought on his whole career, by the way. It wasn't like he's never been there before.
But he said that no one watched his fight against Craig Richards.
He has absolutely he's never been provided with, and he's never been given any viewing figures at all. The reality is, there are more eyeballs, bigger viewing numbers globally on Matchroom events than any other promoter in the world. DAZN's viewing figures are less than Sky, of course. DAZN also provides substantial viewing figures in all the key markets, including America, which Joshua Boazzi doesn't have a TV deal with a platform in America, or nor does that promotional company for his fights. And ultimately, we're in a market at the moment. Boxing has aggressive investors that are willing to pay inflated purses for fighters, and as a business, we have to look at those numbers and decide if we
haven't you changed your tune though around fighters? Because it wasn't so long ago that you were running around telling everybody you don't need contracts and that you'll do deals on the shake of a hand and a handshake.
Depends on the individual.
All right, and then, well, of course, it would do for the purpose of this argument.
No,
and then when Josh Boazzi leaves because he doesn't want to stay with you for 3 years after fighting Bivol, you get
3
lumped with
fights. Again, like.
Not 3 years then?
No, 3 fights.
Okay, what we know is...
Let's just go to that Franklin's because I think that we're very similar in many ways, me and you. Some ways. But from a business sense...
I'll let you have that.
Let me put this to you.
Go ahead.
Joshua Boazzi, from the professional debut, is a matchroom fighter. Invested in him his whole career, right? And it's a significant investment across purses.
Are you ahead yet?
Are you going to let... No, absolutely.
No,
miles behind. Miles behind on Joshua Boazzi. Miles behind. See, the ticket sales for the Craig Richards fight was a good example. And I've seen the viewing figures versus other fighters. That's why we have to make commercial decisions. Going back to that, we get him a British title fight. He gets a European title fight. Right? We box him at Madison Square Garden. We get him to #1 in the world somehow, because that's our job. And we walk him in to a £1.25 million fight with Dimitri Bivol for the world title.
Which he acknowledges.
In neutral territory.
Which he acknowledges.
Okay. Now, his contract's up. #1, Dimitri Bivol has to have a rematch clause, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to extend that contract anyway.
Fair enough.
We ask for a 3-fight extension if he was to go on and win the world title for a huge amount of money, probably walk into the Canelo Alvarez fight for $7 million like Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders did. That's complete industry standard. You've made a huge investment.
And you've got matching rights and all that goes with it.
Yeah, anyway, that's the situation there. The reality is his team didn't want the Dimitri Bivol fight, which is no problem. But after that investment and getting to that position, we don't want another fight against a nobody where we're going to bleed money. We've given him the education. We've given him the platform. We've boxed him all around the world. Now's your chance to become world
But when
champion.
you moved from I mean, I actually agree with you on the DAZN thing, because I think VOD, if people can subscribe to Netflix, they can subscribe to DAZN. I actually don't think DAZN is a particularly good platform. Some of the content I've watched it hasn't been very good, and it surprises me that you've got to put the price up to $19.99 and
Well, that's
whatever else.
only if you
That's a
only if
commercial
you
reason.
don't only if you don't
Only if you don't pay
subscribe for a
£99
period.
up front. Right?
Or $9.99 a month.
All right, okay. But the point for me is did any of these fighters, because they'll go with you, because I've always been a major advocate. I know how you pay your fighters. I know what you do and when you do it. Not what you pay them, but I know that you're straight down the line. No one mucks about you. They get paid on Monday morning after their fights. And I've always said that about you, both to you and about you.
Is that a compliment?
No, it's absolutely a compliment, because in this game, a lot of them don't, right? And he's always done that. But that doesn't alter the facts that when these guys came with you, say a Coley or Boazzi that were with you, and they moved to DAZN, they've all come away from it, or certainly in those two instances, with a great feeling that this might be all right for Matchroom, but it hasn't been particularly good for us. And then you're quite, rather than accept the fact that sometimes you speculate to accumulate, and sometimes you accept the fact that you run the risk of investing in fighters, you don't make it every single time, you seem to be quite acerbic and facetious and vitriolic about people that choose not to take up your particular conditionality. I understand the fact if you want to make him a fight again, if it's a rematch clause against Bivol, I understand that. But if you want to stick him on a free fight deal after that, why should he need to?
No, he doesn't have to. He has the option to.
But after that, what you've done is becoming quite bitter and facetious about it.
I do, when I do, I mean, every day, but mostly around fights, I do 50 or 60 interviews a day with outlets. I get asked various questions. Sometimes my responses aren't perfect. Sometimes I speak from the heart, which I will always do, and I'll speak honestly. In my opinion. Right, whether you think I'm factually incorrect, like I do you on something.
Whether I think you're a snake oil salesman.
No. Well, I think that's a bit harsh. There's a lot I can say about you personally, but you know.
But you have. You've said things about me personally.
Not really.
You said I'm the king of hypocrisy with no basis for that.
You are the king of hypocrisy, but you talk like you're some kind of business expert. We know how that went for you.
No. In order to lose a lot of money, you have to make it in the first place. And if you're telling me to make 100 million quid,
it's a marathon, not a sprint,
to make 100 million quid,
mate,
to make 100 million quid out of one business in 5 years, no, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You went bankrupt.
No, I didn't.
What? Crystal Palace Football Club.
Don't be stupid.
Crystal Palace Football Club.
Don't be stupid, Eddie. I didn't go bankrupt at all.
Crystal Palace Football
And don't
Club.
say silly things that can get you into trouble, because I didn't go bankrupt in the slightest.
In that case, I apologise. What
I did was,
Palace Football Club?
like everybody else that has challenges in life.
Yeah.
No. What I did was, as the biggest creditor, because of the biggest banking crisis in the world, I took a view that I could no longer fund it anymore, put it into administration and wrote off 50 million quid. On the basis of the fact that I made 100 million quid. So get your facts right.
I apologise. You took the club into administration.
No, I didn't take it into administration. A secured creditor put it in there, and I had to take my medicine, which I've never complained about.
No, and
I've
I
never
admire you
bitched
for
and
that,
whined about it. I've never gone
you-
about the fighters that ran off with me and I invested in them and started crying about it.
Well, you've
I
cried
took my
about many
medicine.
things. No,
No, I haven't.
But also...
Never cried about anything.
But you sit there and you don't acknowledge any side of business. What I'm saying to you, because you don't acknowledge the situation. Lawrence Okoli, another situation, okay? You have to make a call. Go back to the Crystal Palace days, right? And I'll say this to you. A player, right, gets an offer for, is out of contract or his contract's approaching. We've been there with
It's a
Leighton
different
Orient.
analogy, but I understand what
We've
you
been
mean.
there with Leighton Orient. And all of a sudden, you have an option to pay a certain amount of money or to let the fighter go. You have to make a commercial decision based on the ability of that player or the fighter, the draw, the numbers, everything around it.
But the point I was making, there's no implied criticism of that observation, right? Because the guy, you pay your money, he takes your choice, right? And so does the fighter. But the reaction from the fighters about being on DAZN is not a particularly complimentary one.
I disagree.
And it would seem that they had no choice, and I suspect that's probably the reality of their world that they live in, which is when you pitched up sticks and decided that Sky was no longer for you and a better opportunity for Matchroom and your $1 billion pursuit, which, by the way, chapeau, well done for you. If you can get 60 million from Matchroom boxing and make £12 million a year, fantastic. Nice business. I know, it's just boxing. I know. I looked at the numbers the other day. Well done, you. 20% net on net. Very good. But the point is this, is that they look at it and they don't fancy it. And they don't fancy the dynamic of what you've created for them. And to some extent, I understand the reasons why.
Yeah, but you're talking about a couple of isolated incidents who get people in their ear. The others that might say, it's been unbelievable for me. I've boxed in America. I've boxed globally. I've boxed on the Canelo Alvarez.
Such as whom would say that?
Well, I think Yafai. Boazzi's one of them. Katie Taylor.
Well, Boazzi doesn't say it, does he? Boazzi's gone. So
but
Boazzi's not a good example, is he?
Yeah, I know. I said, you asked me who boxed internationally on those cards.
No, I asked you who would say something positive about it.
I think anybody that's taken that opportunity.
I'll be interested to see how positive you are, Eddie, about AJ fighting Jermaine Franklin. That's coming up next, April the 1st. AJ against Jermaine Franklin. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Fury Usyk in the final part.
Wow. That's him and Eddie going at it like face to face. Simon telling him, don't make up stuff that can get into trouble. Don't say shit on there that you can get sued for. If you don't know about stuff, all we hear about, he went bankrupt to Palace. we don't know the actual truth. Only Simon knows this truth, and it's not. He's actually told his own truth in his book and on Talksport. So Eddie, just to get one back at Simon, he decided to bring up Palace, which Simon just shut it down. Told him straight away, do not say shit. That's gonna get into trouble here, mate. And fair play to Eddie, he apologized to him because he didn't know the circumstances. All he could probably just read from the press. He went broke at the time, but during that period, we had the biggest financial crisis, or whatever you want to call it. Banks were going bust. Government were bailing out banks, so he couldn't fund Palace anymore. So he had to put it somewhere where somebody else can take over and run it, and that's what happened. But let's dive into when he actually took over Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace. I think he had a few investors from somewhere. It wasn't actually his own money fully. He had some money in it, but he also had some backers, big, huge backers, money backers that backed him throughout that process. It's a quick 10-minute one. Let's have a look at that.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. Normally, when I see you guys on these occasions, it's at the wake of a manager or the christening of a new one. But this is slightly different. I find myself a little bit confused this morning, and I think I want to use this press conference to clarify a few things. 6.5 years ago, when I bought Palace, I bought it in a manner which basically was using someone else to buy the club for me in order for me to get what I felt was the best deal, because there were various protagonists involved in the mix that I felt would possibly exploit the opportunity for me to buy the club in the manner which was best for the club we bought him. Now, over the last 6.5 years, the club has changed dramatically. You know, we've had some success, we've had a lot of rebuilding to do, and we've done a lot of good things. We've been in the Premiership earlier than we said we would be. Unfortunately, we didn't stay there, but also we've put ourselves in probably our most financially credible position. We've sold players for enormous amounts of money. We've developed a wonderful academy, bringing a lot of young players through. We've bought an American soccer team, an American soccer academy to feed our UK operation. And one of the things that has been on my mind for 6.5 years is the freehold of Selhurst Park. And recently, I've been hearing various rumours and was led to believe that various stories are going to be written about the fact that Selhurst Park had been sold, and that Crystal Palace had been offered by Ron Nodes the opportunity to buy Selhurst Park and had shown no interest whatsoever. So, the facts of the matter are that Crystal Palace have had very little dialogue with Ron Nodes, and there is a reason for that. And the facts of the matter are that Selhurst Park has been sold, and it's been sold to me. I bought Selhurst Park through a structure that was set up over the last 2 weeks. I'm not so sure if Ron is aware of who he sold it to, but he sold it to me. But that's not a surprise, given the fact that he wasn't aware he was buying the club 6.5 years ago. So it's not a surprise that he doesn't know who's bought the freehold. As far as I'm concerned, it's a reaffirmation of what I said I would do 6.5 years ago. It's a significant development for the club in terms of it's been a big concern for the supporters and a big concern for everybody else besides me in terms of the ownership of the freehold. I now have this ownership, and I'm looking forward to enhancing the football club by owning the freeholds. I'm looking forward to working with a very progressive council who've been very good with us as a tenant, and I expect them to be very good with us as a freehold, as the freeholder. And it really is a case of, I said this is what I would do. I've done it when I wanted to do it, how I've wanted to do it. I've done it in a manner which, albeit through a structure that necessarily doesn't initially lend itself in terms of Ron's eyes to being me, but ultimately is, because my ambitions and my devotion and my interest level is solely with the betterment of Crystal Palace Football Club, and that makes it my Achilles heel in negotiations. And I wasn't prepared to be exploited on that basis, and an opportunity for the price to become prohibitive. I've paid the right price for this freehold, and now this gives this football club an opportunity to do exactly what the plans I had for it to do over the last 6 years, and puts everything into place like I said I would do. That's the announcement I wanted to make today, and I wanted to clear up the nonsense and the rumours, and obviously inform Ron who's bought his freehold.
How much did we... The guy is just so honest, man. It doesn't matter what question you ask him, he just gives you an open and honest answer. There's no way, there's no two ways around him. There's no ins and out. There's no, he just gives it as it is. If you don't like it, that's your problem. And he bought Sellers back from Palace, and he had a freehold, by the way. Freehold. He must have paid a fortune for that. But hey, he called a press conference just to clarify that as well. That's how much he thought about himself, or he thinks about himself. Simon, everything has got to be like. He can put on a show. He can put on a really good show as well, and that's why the press used to like him a lot, because he almost reminds me of Amorim now, who said things the press would just say and runs with it. So his box office when it comes to doing stuff in business and the media, he knows what he's doing.
What do you say how much you bought it for?
12 million.
And how much was he
12 million he paid for that.
asking you for beforehand?
It's been the reality of it is it's been a very difficult relationship over the last 6.5 years, and I'm not saying that the difficulties have been all one-sided. Both myself and Ron, can be difficult to deal with, and both of us can be vitriolic and sometimes contemptuous. I'm not going to be in this instance. I'll leave it to Ron. He's better equipped at that. But over the years, it's been a discussion point, swinging back and forward from he'll never sell it to me till he'll sell it to me for this or for that, or not sell it to me, period. The reality of it is the freehold is now mine.
Are you now planning to renovate?
My primary focus at this moment in time has to be to get the team back in the Premiership. Now that I've got the freehold, great. Yes, of course. We're not going to sit here on our hands, as we have not done in any other walk of the club, be it from the academy, be it from acquiring players or acquiring managers and letting managers go, or getting promoted to the Premiership, or whatever else. But the reality of it is that the main focus now is I've done my bit. I've done what I said I would do. I've bought the freehold, I've pumped money into the football club, I've stood here against a backdrop of ITV Digital collapsing and everybody else falling by the wayside. I've put a club in the Premiership a year ahead of schedule. We should have stayed there. I've fought every single battle I've had to fight, not for my betterment, but for the betterment of the club. So the main focus now is come on, boys, on the football side, let's get us back into the Premiership. So that helps me to continue with my development on the other side of the coin.
Can you explain just exactly how it works that Ron will know that you're buying into the structure? Because presumably he wants to check to make sure that the bid is genuine and wants to know where the money's come from.
Well, he's satisfied on that front.
At which stage did he find out that it was you that was behind it?
A couple of minutes ago, I suspect he was at home with his feet up and smoking a pipe.
So how do you know when I asked just how the process would have gone through, dealing with that amount of money, that presumably his people or he personally would have wanted to have made background checks?
Very similar to how I bought the club in the first place. The reality of it is that nobody knew that I was buying the club when Jerry Lim stood up 6.5 years ago, and I purported to have the credibility and the means to be able to buy the club, and ultimately it was me. So the structure is very similar. I'm not going to go into the mechanics of the structure because it's quite complicated and quite convoluted. But be under no illusion that the reality of what I'm saying is the facts of the matter.
What do you think his reaction is going to be?
I should think he'd be thrilled that I've got it.
Would this be the be-all and end-all of it? Do you think once he finds out this, as you say, the relationship has been quite contentious over the years, do you think is he in a position to come back and say, well, things weren't above board, I didn't know who was behind?
No, I shouldn't think so.
Do you think Ron was holding the club back by holding on the side?
I think Ron Nodes did a fantastic job at this football club. I think he did a fantastic job for the football club, and I think he did a fantastic job for himself as a businessman. a lot of people will criticise him for that, but with due respect, you know, the club had its most successful period under Ron, you know, and I can't dispute that. You know, I think that we've made tremendous leaps and bounds as a football club, and are not far away from you know, being and achieving and emulating what's been achieved before. But I don't know if holding back is the right terminology. He has the right as the freeholder to sell to who he wants to. I think he and I could have had a better relationship. That you know, we've got to look at one another for that. But the reality of it is that I don't need to have a relationship with Ron anymore.
Were there other bids, do you know?
Apparently.
Of a similar sort of figure?
I would have thought not, otherwise Ron would have gone with him.
You said in February that you'd like to leave you'd like to leave a nice legacy for them. Now you've got 3 on, you could do that, but do you want to see this through now?
I've always said, listen, you know, that there was every person has an amount of time when they're effective in their jobs. You know, football managers have a certain amount of time. Nigel Worthington, with due respect to the job he did at Norwich, did a fantastic job for many years, and all of a sudden, you know, he can't do the job anymore because for one reason or another he's lost his focus. And I think, or the club's going a different direction, or the players are not responding. And I think the same can be said of ownership of any business. There are times when, you know, fresh ideas, fresh outlooks are beneficial to the club. Now, from my point of view, I also don't want to be 50 years of age owning a football club. Now, I realise I've got a long way to go to being 50, but I don't want to be around any longer than I have to be. You know, I want to put the club where I said I'd put it, which is amongst the elite, make it stay there rather than come back down again, make it sure that it has the facilities which are conducive with a top flight club, leave it with a financial platform where it does not need one individual. Because when a football club is owned by one individual, whilst it's great to have a benefactor, it does make it precarious. It does make it to the whims and fancies of that particular individual. Fortunately, in this case, my whims and fancies have been consistent with the fact that I want success. But ideally and realistically, everything I've said I would do, I've done. I've said I would make this club successful. I've said I would rebuild it. I've said I would give it credibility. I've said that we'd invest in our players. I've said that we'd keep players. I've said we'd get in the Premiership. I've said that we'd buy the freehold. And I'm saying that when I leave the club, it will be in a position that it doesn't need another Simon Jordan. It needs a good board of directors that can maximise the revenue streams, like big football clubs do, to push itself forward.
£12 million is a lot of money. Does that mean that there's not going to be money available elsewhere in the club, particularly team buildings?
No, two things are not inextricably indexed. You know, the reality of it is that, you know, this is an investment into the future of the football club, as are players. You know, my investment into players is there for you to see. You know, you've seen it this summer, you saw it last summer. Yes, we were fortunate enough to dispose of some players this summer for very substantial amounts of money, but be under no illusion that the wage bill of this football club is quite heavy, and probably one of the heaviest in the divisions. So when people see headline transfers, they don't necessarily understand that millions and millions and millions of pounds are going out on player wages in order for us to be where we want to be, which is at the top of the division.
That's mad, you know. That interview, by the way, was 18 years ago. You know how crazy that is? 18 years ago, Simon did that interview about Sellers Park. It's mad how his language, the way he speaks, the grammar or whatever, the terminologies that he used 18 years ago, he's still using them now, right? Was talking about football or talking about business. 18 years ago, he bought Sellers Park and he called a press conference for 12 million, and he still speaks the same. He's still the same guy. You know, shame. At the time, he had to go into administration or whatever. I don't think it was administration, but he put it into something because he couldn't fund the club anymore due to the financial market at the time. But there's also another side to Simon Jordan, which when it comes toe to toe with certain individuals like Frank Warren, it's a different ball game. So here they're having a heated conversation. It's not an argument, but
On Saturday night, and we're talking about the fact that it wasn't Tyson Fury who won. It was Alexander Usyk. 2 judges scored at Usyk, 115, 112 and 114, 113. The other 114, 113 for Fury. So not a unanimous decision, a majority decision, but Usyk's hand was held aloft at the end of the night. What next for Tyson? What next for Usyk? I'm delighted to say Tyson's promoter, Frank Warren, joins us live on the show. Frank, good afternoon to you. When you look back at it, how was the experience?
Well, it's a tremendous experience. It was the most important fight, as I said, from the beginning of the 21st century. And it was an epic battle between 2 gladiators who gave their all and left their all in the ring.
Yeah. How is Tyson? Back here and recuperating? What's his mood?
He's back here. He's, as you say, recuperating. His mood is that he wants the rematch, and that's already signed for, so that will happen.
So when will that be, Frank?
In October.
The rematch is in October in Riyadh, right?
Correct.
Okay, so everybody back out there and it all happens again.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm pleased to hear that. Because obviously I have mixed emotions about Tyson's behaviour over the last 12 months, but never doubted the ability of the fighter. So I'm really pleased that when adversities come knocking, if the claims that he's made over the years that he is the best heavyweight are to be backed up, he needs to take this rematch. He needs to come through adversity and redeem himself in the same way that Lennox Lewis did, same way that Mike Tyson did, and the same way that Muhammad Ali did at times when they suffered losses. So I'm really pleased to hear that.
Well, before you ask me any more questions, I want to answer what Simon said there about his behaviour. And I've got to be honest, and Simon and I, we have lots of discussions and so forth, and we agree on a lot of things, and there's things that I don't agree on, and him vice versa.
Indeed.
Tyson is bipolar. And if you go on the NHS website and you're talking about the things that are said, you look on there and you look at the symptoms, and bipolar, by the way, has been the word for the last few years on manic depressive, which is a mental illness, a serious mental illness. And it includes things like mania, feeling very happy, elated, overjoyed, talking quickly, feeling full of energy, easily irritated or agitated, dealing with suicidal feelings, which without treatment they may get stronger, as they did with him because he was very close to that. Self-harm, not just physical self-harm, mental self-harm. And you should avoid drugs and alcohol. And as you know, he was well documented, especially when some of these things were said, which were attributed to him, which some were said and some were, I think, were manipulated. But that's a fact. And then, which I think is something that is quite important for somebody who has bipolar, because my brother committed suicide, as I mentioned to you before, Simon.
Yep.
And he was borderline schizophrenic and suffering from this. And that's why I take exception to what's going down here and how easy and what these throwaway lines are about thuggish behaviour. It says making decisions or saying things that are out of character and others may see as risky or harmful. So that's what he's got, bipolar. What he hasn't done, what thugs do, thugs hit people. He's not hit anybody. Things have been said, a couple of things have been said and so forth, because you say what's in your head. I might, or you might, because we have maybe a bit of filter sometimes, say things to each other.
I understand, Frank, but does this mean that when Tyson and those around him go off with insulting and disrespectful and diminishing comments about others, everyone's just got to accept it and say, okay, Tyson Fury's got bipolar, so we just price that in. When he starts insulting people, which he does regularly, when he starts diminishing people and making personal observations about people, which he does regularly, everyone's just got to say we all must feel sorry for Tyson because he's got bipolar, and all the acolytes around him, all his management team that come out with the same sort of nonsense as well, his father's behaviour over in Saudi, everyone's just got to sit there and say, no, Tyson, we all must now price that into our thinking and give him a pass on it, Frank.
No one's saying that at all.
Well, you kind of are.
And as regarding the team, I mean, you can only talk, when you say management, he only has one manager and he only has one dad. And that, whatever they say, that's not Tyson saying. But whatever Tyson says...
You are judged by the company you keep, Frank, aren't you?
Asked me, let me answer the question you just asked. No, you haven't got to do that. But you should prefix it by saying he's bipolar. And what's in his head, he says, like at the end of the fight, Happy New Year. No one actually said at the end of the fight, and any of the reports, hardly any of the reports I've seen, except the guys who've been waiting to dig their knives into him, no one has said how they embraced each other, the fighters, how Tyson must have kissed him about 3 times.
Frank, I'll give you the alternate view on this. The praise for Tyson Fury over the years from certain quarters has been quite significant. And even in the article that I wrote last week, which you responded to, and one of these digital guys shoved a portion of it under your nose and you responded to it, referred to him as charismatic, enigmatic, charming, engaging. All of those are taken as a given. And the moment criticism comes, oh, hang on a second, that's unfair. And that's what people get a bit fed up with.
Well, I'll get fed up with what you say when the headlines talks about thuggery.
Well, there was thuggery in Saudi.
That's what the headlines say.
The language that he uses is thuggish and boorish. It is overbearing and unpalatable.
He's never, to my knowledge, been a thug outside the ring to anybody. Who's he hit?
Well, it depends what you define thuggery as behaviour.
None of that's happened.
Depends what you're taking exception.
The man is an absolute consummate warrior. You couldn't leave anything in the ring more than he does in every one of these fights.
And no one's questioned that, Frank, have they?
Well, they are. Some people are dismissive of it. Well,
they're not, Frank, and you've alighted upon this, and you're being remarkably defensive of it, and I understand to some extent why. But I don't feel that what you're pushing back against is unfair comment, because it is. I do hear you that certain people are jumping on the agenda because he's lost now and they can really stick the boot in, and I get that and I understand that. But I also think that there's an equitability and fairness. I think the way that, for example, if we're going to talk about vested interest, I think the way that Tyson's engaged and the ban that's been put on TalkSport is preposterous. And he's cited people like me who have been a major advocate of his over the years, a major supporter of his, because they perceive that one thing has been said. All of a sudden, everything gets up. Then I have to listen to the insulting disposition about how much money I lost, what I am, what I'm not, and everyone's just got to get on with that from Tyson. And there comes a point where people get a bit fed up with it. And so Tyson has made himself fair game for this.
But you're a big boy. You should be able to take it too.
I do.
You can't dish it out if you can't take it.
Correct.
And by the way,
so you dish it out, don't you?
Isn't it very? For me, I find it very simplistic. If he's continually getting stick, especially what he got from that idiot Adam Catterall, if he's getting the things that were said about him and so forth, what, he doesn't have to speak to. He has no obligation to speak to anybody.
And that's fine.
There's a lot of fighters don't even speak to the press. And the Mal, by the way, who are constant. I mean, there's not one. There's about 3 journalists in there who keep kicking him, and that is what it is. So he doesn't speak to the Mal.
Frank, can I ask you?
By the way, the Mal normally get 5 million people.
The Mills and Mayo. This is TalkSport you're on. So, Frank, here's the thing: does Tyson Fury's bipolar condition affect his mental state when it comes to reacting to criticism?
It's not criticism. It's things he comes out with. He will come out with something. And by the way, he's an intelligent
as Simon
man.
Riley just said, sorry to jump in, Frank, but what amazed us was that, and we're not going to get into the TalkSport situation, the Simon Jordan, Jim White situation with Tyson Fury, but not that long ago, before he fought Dillian White, Simon and I waited for him in the England dressing room at Wembley. He came in. We felt we were talking to one of our best pals. He started off, Frank, by telling us how much he loves the show. He then went on to tell us how much he enjoys Simon's take on this, that, and the next. Simon's objectivity. He loved all that. And then Tyson changed. Is it because of this mental state regarding his bipolar condition that has brought about this change?
No, not at all. He's reacted to some of the things that you've been saying.
So the bipolar aspect of things has nothing to do with it then, does it?
Sorry, Jim, because you have a voice on the radio and an opinion, that doesn't mean that, that's all okay. If he takes exception to it, he has a personal choice to whether he wants to continue speaking to you or not.
And that's fine.
He chose not to.
And that's fine.
That's it.
And that means that on the flip side of that, the alternate view of how his behaviour and the reaction to what he then goes on and says and does is the precinct of people like me or Jim or other people. But you guys take exception to that. But other people can't.
I take exception to the fact that I know I know him. You don't know him. You've met him in the Wembley dressing room. I know him. I deal with him all the time. I know the type of person he is. I know what he's been through. I know seriously what he's been through, some really bad times. And what I say about that is the fact that he's officially diagnosed as being bipolar. So take that into account, all you geniuses who seem to just think you know everything. You don't know. You don't know the background. You don't know the man. And sometimes the things he said, I've cringed at a few times at some of the things he said. But I know what goes down, and I know how it is.
Yeah, but Frank, to jump in here, the fact of the matter, but Frank, the fact
because I had a brother who went through the similar
understood,
situation.
as you said earlier. But the fact of the matter is, Frank, we should never have ended up where it ended up, in my view. And I've been in this business. No, hang on, Frank. I've been in this business a long time, the business of broadcasting and opinion. And you can't go one moment to having a relationship with someone, as Simon and I had with Tyson, to the next minute it changes. And they ain't coming to Riyadh, and we're not talking to Talk Sport. And you, as his promoter, Frank, had a duty to say to Tyson, that's ridiculous, they're coming, and you talk to them like you talk to anyone else.
No, I don't have a duty to do that at all. He's a man. He's over 21 years of age. That's up to him what he wants to do.
But you're telling us his decision-making is affected by the condition he has.
So, Jim, I'm going to go and have a row with the guy who I'm very close to. I'm going to have a row with him over you guys.
Might not have been a row.
Well, you can let me answer, because it will be a row, because he won't want to do it.
Your job's to advise.
All right, you've invited me on the programme. At least hear what I've got to say.
Cool.
So you asked me to speak to him, which I did, and Liam, who's your boss, asked me. We spoke and we tried to build these bridges. We were quite close to it. Then another load of crap come out, which I didn't agree with. And I've got to be honest, I found some of the things offensive, what was said about him and what was going on. But that is what it is. Not just you, and it's not just you. It's been we've had many conversations about this. So at the end of the day, what do you think? I'm going to keep going to battle for Talk Sport? No, I'm not. I'm not going to.
But the crazy thing is, we have a great relationship with you, Frank. We continue to do so.
No, you don't have to, Frank.
And you do, but
you don't have to go for battle, Frank. But you cannot. I think you know me relatively well, Frank. I'm an equitable, objective man. I stand by every single observation I've made about Tyson Fury, both good and bad. And you guys take all the compliments and none of the criticism. And it seems to me like a one-dimensional set of thinking, and I expected better. And if we're not going to get better, that's fine. It's no big deal. Simon. It's no big deal.
Simon, so did I from you. Because what you've not done any time in any of your columns or anything is mention that he's got bipolar.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, if I'd have written a column about Tyson Fury's medical condition, you'd have been over me like a rash.
You have not mentioned at all.
Frank, that is absolute crap, Frank.
But you know what?
If I'd have written a column about Tyson Fury's medical condition, you'd have been all over me. How dare I write about his medical condition? Yes, you would have done.
You and I are never going to agree on this, ever.
Because you're bloody wrong. And you're defending Tyson because it represents a commercial interest to you.
I wanted of course I've got a commercial interest. You've got a commercial interest.
No, I don't.
You want to buy it. You want to be controversial. You want to buy it.
No, I don't, Frank. I want to call it as I see it.
On all sports, and you get paid for it.
No, Frank, I don't need the money from broadcasting. I do it because it engages me and interests me. It's not about commercial objectivity. It's about calling things as they really are, because most people don't. And you and your boy can't take it when it's put on your toes. You can give it out, but you can't take it.
I don't give it. Who will I give it out to?
You give it out to anybody you feel like. Up until recently, it was Eddie Hearn.
So tell me, who did I give it out to?
Up until recently, it was Eddie Hearn. Now you're best pals because you've got a common interest. Let's have it right, Frank.
We are business rivals, and I've said what I've had to say, and they're well.
I just gave you an example.
At the moment, for the good of the sport, and we're making money, we're working together.
And fair play, and no one's got a problem with it. But don't get holier than thou, Frank.
And all the fights that you and certainly Adam have complained about not being made are being made.
But that's cobblers, Frank. The only thing that was ever let's deal in facts, Frank. Right? The only thing that was ever said about your boy was the fact that when Usyk's camp said he doesn't want to fight.
No, you're talking about Eddie Hearn. We've done that. Now let's get
but going back to what's said, Frank, deal in facts. You've had plenty to say about Eddie Hearn because you wanted an example of who you've fallen out with and who you get critical of, right? Now go back to Fury and look at the relationship relationship with what's happened there. The reasons why everyone got the needle about it is not because we questioned the fact that Usyk had said that Tyson had ducked the fight. No, I didn't say ducked it. Never said it once. I asked the question. It was then put to Tyson through some digital forum, and it came up when we were criticising the Saudi phenomenon, when we talked about the WBC heavyweight champion of the world going in with an MMA fighter. All of a sudden, 6 months ago, someone said something that no one picked up on, and now they're picking up on it because everyone doesn't want the Saudi situation upset by a bunch of British media. That's where it all started from, and that's where the problem has developed from.
Not at all. We didn't want to talk to you long before Saudi. That's not true.
Cobblers, Frank.
It's not cobblers.
Cobblers.
Nobody said here, Frank. Nobody said here
cobblers.
that. No, there was never a suggestion from anyone here, as well as Simon. I worked so closely with him that Tyson was going to duck anything. Frank, actually, while you're on live, can we just establish something? We absolutely adore, and do you know what? I was really proud. I was so proud, Frank.
Put it up and send it to you.
Frank, I'm not going to shout over you. Don't you shout over me, Frank. I was so proud of the relationship that we had with Tyson. That we did nothing. Hang on, I'm not finished. That we did nothing. Simon and I did nothing,
Jim,
to affect that relationship.
That Saturday night happened. And what we're not doing at the moment is talking about the fight, which I hope we will be able to in a moment. But the fact of life is, you are not in a position, nor is it going to happen, that he wants to build any bridges with you. It's done.
Couldn't care less.
And that's it. But I'm not bringing it up. You're bringing it up.
No, you brought up the situation around his medical condition,
he doesn't have an
and we commented on it.
He doesn't have an obligation to speak to anybody.
No, of course not.
Don't want to.
Of course not.
And that's fine, and nobody has a problem with it.
You began today, Frank, by telling us about this medical condition that he's been suffering from.
Of course, because I'm looking at stories.
I asked you post a grueling fight with Usyk,
being a thug and so forth, and about the things that he said, and I'm explaining to you what happens with somebody who is diagnosed with bipolar.
Right, but you're using it as an excuse. I wrote an article, Frank. You're commenting on what I've written, Frank. I wrote an article, an 800-word article, which criticised in praise and equal measure. And all you want to do is whine about some commentary, which I think is actually fair. I think some of the things that comes out of his mouth and the people that he chooses to have around him are exactly the way I've described it. And I don't think it's unfair, and I think we should probably move on from it and talk about the reality of what Tyson did in the ring on Saturday night.
Yeah, and please, let's do that, because, as I say, we are not going to agree on that. The man is diagnosed
and we've got it, Frank.
Condition, and but you should have got it beforehand. You should go on the NHS website and look at it.
Rubbish. So about 18 or 19 minutes ago, Frank, 19 minutes ago, I asked you how your fighter was. After losing in Riyadh, you went on to tell us about this medical condition.
No, I didn't.
So you told us there's going to be a rematch in October, but how is he after the loss that he suffered? His first career loss.
He's disappointed, and as I said at the start of the program, he's very disappointed. You know, he's got his view on what the fight, how it ended. And a few people have. There's differing views. The majority in the favour of the fact that Usyk won the fight, and it was a great fight. And it was a great fight, as I said, because there was two warriors in there who gave everything, never left anything behind, and it was probably the best heavyweight fight of this century. There's no doubt about that. It's a great fight. Two guys at the top of their game.
Yeah,
and
Frank is so passionate about his people, you know, and I love that about him. He protects his people. It doesn't I understand what Simon is saying there. Tyson Fury can come across as, you know, he picks and chooses when he wants to go after people or certain people that he wants to stay away from. Like him banning Talksport, not speaking to them at the time, kind of like hurt Simon and Jim because they thought they were close, like really close pals, especially going into his dressing room and chatting to him and standing there, Tyson telling them that he loves to show how much he loves Simon's take on certain aspects of the business. So to them, it was a bit of a shock to hear that Tyson banned them from, you know, going into his dressing room in Riyadh. It was an absolute. Yeah, yeah. You dropped yours. You've got yours there. You dropped yours. Pick it up. Yeah, you can have that one. Yeah. But yeah, masterclass, the chaos. This is what I mean. Some stuff about Mr. Jordan. Simon Jordan does not mince these words. He stand by everything he said before and now, present. Everything he's been through. It's just clear with everything. And Frank, fair play to Frank. He backs his corner. He backs his fighters all the time, and this is why he's so successful at boxing. Frank Warren. He's always backing them. What are you doing, Ariel? We don't need that background there before my stream got taken down. We only need that one. So we're talking about Simon Jordan. He's a class act, you know. I think most of his points are fair point. He makes some clear fair point against certain people. Even players, footballers like Marcus Rashford, Harry Kane, you know, Eze, you name them, he'll tell you as it is. But they also go after the people that generate the views. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh. Yeah, that's you. But yeah, it goes after, you know, every TV station or newspaper or social media. They go after the people that generate the views for them. You know. Yeah, do you understand there? So yeah, Tyson obviously is a household name. It generates a lot of talk, especially by doing that, by banning them from speaking to them. Talk sport. It created more chaos for the fight and more publicity for the fight. It gets Simon Jordan angry, and Simon gets to talk about it most of the time, consistently. So that's why I think it was just a marketing tool they used to get TalkSport to talk more about the fight than the actual issue itself, because there was no issue.
Tyson said he won it, Frank. Do you think he did?
I thought he just won it, and I mean, tell me, it was a fight of two halves. How did you score the first half of the fight?
I think between rounds 1 and 4, I think it was probably 3-1 Usyk. And then I thought Tyson took over for 3 rounds, and I thought he was outstanding. And I think Usyk was so clever. I think he made Tyson work so hard. When Tyson wasn't in ascendancy, he worked hard. When he was in ascendancy, he worked hard. And I think Usyk stepped on the gas. And I think fatigue played a part in Tyson, because I was surprised at the lack of punch resistance in the 9th round. But I thought it was a brilliant fight. I thought Tyson's performance was brilliant at times. But I didn't see from Tyson what I expected to see. I didn't see the menace from him that I've seen in previous fights. When I saw him walk into the ring with Deontay Wilder, the sort of darkness behind Tyson's eyes didn't seem to be there. And I was surprised that a lot of things about Tyson's build up to the fight. But I thought it was a brilliant fight, and I thought he did at times brilliantly in it.
Yeah, I did. I see the early part of the fight. I thought he lost the first round, and I think there might have been one shed, and up until the 6th round, he was... on my scoring, it was the worst case was 4-2, and then he won the 7th, and all the judges gave it that way, except for one judge who had it a draw going into the 6th round. So I don't get that.
Did you have it 4-2 to Tyson or 4-2 to Usyk as worst case?
4 to Tyson.
Oh, did you? All right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did, and like Teddy Atlas, people who who are certainly who I've got a lot of respect for, and in the game, had the same thing. It was I don't think there was anything in it. I think it could have gone either way. I think obviously that 9th round was a 10-8, and I had him winning the 10-8 round. Sorry, the 7th round 10-9. I was giving the 10-8 round to Usyk as well. 10-9 the 10th round. 10-9
Did he break his nose, Tyson? Did
11th
Tyson break
round,
his
and
nose,
I gave
Frank?
the 12th round to Tyson, and he showed what a warrior is. I mean, how he
no
come
doubt.
back from it, I do not know.
No
but
doubt.
what the troubling thing was that 7th round, he got hit on the nose, and he had a problem with it, with his nose. He kept touching it, and he sort of lost his concentration a bit. And after Usyk going back at the end of the 7th round, after taking some real shots, and he didn't look too good going back. I mean, there's a couple of moments in that fight where I thought, and a lot of people around the ringside thought that it was he was going to get stopped.
Frank, where is it now, do you
meant.
think, in the conversation of being a generational great?
Look, he's lost one fight. You know, he's lost one fight, a close fight, close fight, 1 round in it. According to some people, it could have been a draw. You know, a couple of journalists have said it could have been a draw. He lost that. You know, you look at Lennox, you mentioned earlier. He lost to Rackman and McCall.
He did.
He's one of the greats. You look at Holyfield.
That's right.
The fight between Lewis and Holyfield, both of them.
That's why I'm delighted, Frank, that he's taking the rematch.
No, I know, but I'm saying you could have put a fag paper in between those fights. You look at Muhammad Ali getting beat by Leon Spinks, who had 9 fights. I can go through a list of fights like that. He's been for me, up until this fight, was the greatest heavyweight of his generation, and I think this fight is the next one will hopefully prove that's the case, because everyone now is saying that Usyk is the fighter of his generation. And I understand that, and I hear where that's coming from because of people's views. So the rematch is going to be great. So if Tyson beats Usyk, does that make Tyson the greatest fighter of his generation?
I think it does, Frank, because if he climbs out of adversity, well, you would do because it's in your favour. But if he climbs out of adversity, and reclaims it, then I think he can. Then I think it will be a remarkable achievement, and he will deserve every plaudit that he gets as a result of it.
Yeah. And I think that you know, with him, he needs a rest. He's been in training camp since December. He's had 2.5 weeks out of training camp when he got the cut, and then went back into it to get prepared for the 18th of May. So it's been a long, long time, not just for him, by the way, for Usyk as well. He's away from his family and whatever, and he needs time with his family. I mean, when you're in training camp, you're not seeing your family, you're not around them. It's a tough environment, and to be doing that for 6 months is a long, you know, tiring and long, laborious thing. So that's where he's at. But as a fighter, he has impeccable.
If there's one moment you'd like to forget and wish probably hadn't happened, was a moment here everybody was talking about, Frank, obviously it was regarding John and the headbutt. Was that just a moment of madness? I mean, it was such
a moment of madness.
It was an enormous occasion, and it didn't need anything like that in the build up to it.
I agree, it didn't need that. I'm not even going to try and justify any of that. You know, they apologise to each other, the camps. That is that, and there's nothing we do it. What I was worried about, it takes over the whole aspect of what was going on that week, and also talking about that rather than the fight. And it's, of course, we don't want that. I don't want that. Who wants it? You know, it's his dad. You're not going to get anything from Tyson about his dad. Why would you? He's his father. Yeah. And that's it. And it's a shame. And he likes his dad being around him. And John, by the way, it's his son, and he's very protective of his son, and sometimes it gets volatile. But and I don't, as I say, I'm not in any way would I condone that.
No, of course not. Of course,
I don't condone what went on
there. Frank, this has been all right, hasn't it? A little lover's tiff at lunchtime on a Tuesday.
Listen, I have no problem with your opinion or anybody's opinion, but I also would like it known what the situation is, and maybe that may give some explanation for some of the things that are said.
Now that we know that maybe going forward, this is an occasion that you can organise, and Simon and I will go and meet Tyson and have a chat with it about it. But we can take it further.
No one more than me, Jim, would love to lock you in a room with him.
Or don't lock us in. I might need a window out. But I mean, Frank, you know we love you, and we love the fact that you come on. You are the man who invited me to the Arsenal Champions League match against Porto, sat with me and said to me, everybody loves your show. We love the two of you. Well, let's carry on in that way. Tell Tyson and we'll get it on again.
We do that, and hopefully one day maybe those bridges will be built. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, you know, I am loyal to him. I've told him as well before announcing rematches to go and think about it, think what you want to do, spend some time with your family. You don't have to tell anybody anything at the moment. It's your decision. You're the one getting in there, having these tough fights, real tough fights, grueling fights. This could have some down the line, could have some effects on your future life and your health. So you don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Of course.
What you want to do.
Just before you go, Frank, and I am serious about this, in your post-fight chat with him, either in Riyadh or when you got back here to England, did you ever discuss any possibility of it? Is it time to retire, Tyson? Would you consider it? Or is that not come into the equation?
I think everything's too raw. Boxers are special people.
I agree.
You're in the broadcasting business, and especially when you're in the TV business. How many footballers come off the pitch immediately and give an interview? And they're not getting punched in the head, by the way. How many sportsmen do that? Very, very few. All boxers do it. And they're not just run a race or played a game of football. They've gone to war. They're, who knows where their heads are and where they're in. Look at the punches Tyson took in that 9th round. You look at all that, and everybody expects something to be just like that. Like you've just walked into a room or doing it over the phone. It's they're special people, and I just would like people to understand that. And
totally agree.
That's what they are. And with Tyson, you can say what you like about me. You can agree with what's being said or what I'm saying or have a in the middle opinion. What you cannot take away from Tyson Fury, he's a true warrior.
And we agree totally with you on that. Frank, what a shame you're on Zoom. If you were here in studio, we could have finished this with a group hug. That would have been lovely, wouldn't it?
On AM. So that was really interesting between Simon and Frank. Simon did not back down. Frank did not back down, backing his man Tyson Fury. It's just interesting to listen to and watch. But this is the thing this is the man, and it's not changed. Like I played that clip before of him 18 years ago. He was as feisty, as honest, as opinionated, and everything else everybody want to describe him. It's that guy, Simon Jordan. But now let's go to a bit of fun here between him and Chris Eubank Sr. Hello. Yeah. I might just pause this and come back to that shortly.
As we talk boxing, when is Conor Benn ever going to engage?
I might pause this. I'll be back very soon. Or later on, play whilst I go do what I need to do. But I'll be off camera for a bit.
In a meaningful fight, Conor Benn going to be fighting again this weekend over in the USA. He can fight anywhere in the world but the UK. Of course, he was going to fight Chris Eubank Jr., but that was called off because of the failed drugs test. Is that fight ever going to happen? Simon, I'm thrilled to say that Chris Eubank Sr. joins us live in studio. Chris, how are you?
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you. Rastafari. Reach dreadlocks. Okay, so that fight is, they're still talking about it. It doesn't make sense how they would even think about actually putting so much money and energy into actually producing another fight like it, knowing that I said it's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen, now I can actually speak on hardcore facts. My son is now walking around at 13.5. That's 187 pounds. So for him to lose 27 pounds to get down to middleweight...
It's a lot on it.
See, the way it's like, oh,
it's like a lot, isn't it?
No, but the way you said that, it's like you're having a cup of tea and you're just having a bit of banter.
No, it's a lot. I'm agreeing with you.
This is a man's life.
Yeah, I'm agreeing
it's
with you.
It's a man's life. He'll never get down to that weight again, ever. At 159, you saw him emaciated, as you said, Simon. So that's out of the window.
Your son's never going to fight Conor Benn.
He was better when he fought Liam. He didn't look emaciated when he fought Liam's second fight, though, did he?
I'm going to say, okay, just get past that.
Yeah.
If those promoters want to actually invest in promoting my name for another 6 months or another year, let me thank you first and foremost for the first time. If you want to do that again, please be my guest. Well, this is the point. My son is now walking around at 13 stones 5. That's 187 pounds. So literally he can't get down, literally. Okay, and such a big build-up or expose on the Eubanks, he's not, let's get to the point. Canelo is the only person he's going to be able to fight now to redeem any type of respect from the fighting public. I mean, talking about real fighters, real boxing people.
Who, your son or Connor?
No, my son.
Your son got a lot of respect back after beating Liam Smith in the second fight, though, didn't he?
Yeah, well, that's not me talking. I mean, I know how you win respect. Okay?
No, fair enough.
And it's not beating a Liam Smith who stopped you. So I don't want to get into that. Junior, this is what my view is. Your saving grace is going to be Canelo. That's it, period. You're never going to get back down to 160. I won't allow that to happen anyway. And when you're walking around at 13 stones 5, you're not going to get down. So you're a 168 fighter. Canelo is your way out, or the way to win respect. And you cannot beat him. Not Canelo. The only way you can beat him is if Daddy is next to you. That's it, period. That's an American term for full stop. Is there anything else to say? No, there isn't. Only that.
Yeah.
That's a done deal. Now, 147 fights 147. Now, there's only one undefeated Eubank left, and that's Harlem. 19 fights, 19 wins. Okay? I've heard Connor talking about... he's talking about all of the top fighters in the world. I mean, I'm talking about Crawford. How are you talking like that? What have you done? Well, look, my son, my surrogate son, he wants to go and conquer the world too. So this is the fight that I stand for. Whoever wins this particular fight, Conor Ben versus Harlem the Gold Eubank, whoever wins that fight goes ahead and then conquers the world. That can be your, let's say, your prize. But, Conor talking about Crawford, what are you talking about?
Okay.
You haven't, I mean, it seems to me as I go back and look, I'm the only one giving him credibility. I don't believe he had anything to do with being juiced up. He got juiced up, his team juiced him up, whoever they are. That's my view. I don't think he had anything to do with it.
They'll have a different view on that, of course.
And I don't mind them coming. Yeah. You know what? Please come and talk to me. Because if you do, then we can get more things out in the open. Hold on. We can get more things out in the open. That's one. Two, where Harlem is concerned, he's 19 fights. He's unbeaten. He's the Eubank that you want. So this promoter, who is somehow got him as some type of... He's not doing anything. He's in no man's land. And now he's fighting a guy called Pete Dobson. Yeah. Who is this guy? I'm looking at him. Hold on. I'm looking at him, this Dobson, and I'm looking at, back in the day, they used to use a term. Okay, I think they may have dug that one up. He may still be warm. That's the type of fighter he's fighting. I don't disrespect him, but I'm talking about how the game goes. Right. They dug him up, okay, and he is still warm. Okay? That's how they talk about the Pete Dobson of my era, which is why I don't speak about Mr. Smith.
But you know the economics of how this works.
No,
but let's be real. Let's not be idealistic.
No, I can't look at the economics, because if I look at the economics...
I just need to take you back because I've missed half of this because I had to go do some stuff. But I'll let you roll. So I'm just going to pull it back and see where it all started, because this is about to be some box office shit, right? It's Chris Eubank Sr. versus Simon Jordan. Probably the most, how do you call it? What do I describe this to? Geniuses in different ways, a different path. But this is about to be box office. Frank Warren was box office, but this is box office days. Hollywood style.
But the UK. Of course, he was going to fight Chris Eubank Jr., but that was called off because of the failed drugs test. Is that fight ever going to happen? Simon, I'm thrilled to say that Chris Eubank Sr. joins us live in studio. Chris, how are you?
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you. Rastafari. Reach dreadlocks. Okay, so that fight is...
Man, he's a
I mean, they're still talking about it. It doesn't make sense how they would even think about actually putting so much money and energy into actually producing another fight like it, knowing that I said it's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen, now I can actually speak on hardcore facts. My son is now walking around at 13.5. That's 187 pounds. So for him to lose 27 pounds to get down to middleweight,
It's a lot on it.
see, the way it's like, oh,
It's a lot, isn't it?
No, but the way you said that, it's like you're having a cup of tea and you're just having a bit of banter.
No, it's a lot. I'm agreeing with you.
This is a man's life.
Yeah, I'm agreeing
It's
with
a
you.
man's life. He'll never get down to that weight again, ever. At 159, you saw him emaciated, as you said, Simon. So that's out of the window.
So your son's never going to fight Conor Ben.
He was better when he fought Liam. He didn't look emaciated when he fought Liam's second fight, though, did he?
I'm going to say, okay, just get past that.
Yeah.
If those promoters want to actually invest in promoting my name for another 6 months or another year, let me thank you first and foremost for the first time. If you want to do that again, please be my guest. Well, this is the point. My son is now walking around at 13 stones 5. That's 187 pounds. So literally he can't get down, literally. Okay, and such a big build-up or expose on the Eubanks, he's not, let's get to the point. Canelo is the only person he's going to be able to fight now to redeem any type of respect from the fighting public. I mean, talking about real fighters, real boxing people.
Who, your son or Conor?
No, my son.
Your son got a lot of respect back after beating Liam Smith in the second fight, though, didn't he?
Yeah, well, that's not me talking. I mean, I know how you win respect. Okay?
No, fair enough.
And it's not beating a Liam Smith who stopped you. So I don't want to get into that. Junior, this is what my view is. Your saving grace is going to be Canelo. That's it, period. You're never going to get back down to 160. I won't allow that to happen anyway. And when you're walking around at 13 stones 5, you're not going to get down. So you're a 168 fighter. Canelo is your way out or the way to win respect. And you cannot beat him. Not Canelo. The only way you can beat him is if Daddy is next to you. That's it, period. That's an American term for full stop. Is there anything else to say? No. There isn't. Only that.
Yeah.
That's a done deal. Now, 147 fights 147. Now, there's only one undefeated Eubank left, and that's Harlem. 19 fights, 19 wins. Okay? I've heard Conor talking about... he's talking about all of the top fighters in the world. I mean, I'm talking about Crawford. How are you talking like that? What have you done? Well, look, my son, my surrogate son, he wants to go and conquer the world too. So this is the fight that I stand for. Whoever wins this particular fight, Conor Ben versus Harlem the Gold Eubank, whoever wins that fight, goes ahead and then conquers the world. That can be your, let's say, your prize. But, Conor talking about Crawford, what are you talking about?
Okay.
You haven't, I mean, it seems to me as I go back and look, I'm the only one giving him credibility. I don't believe he had anything to do with being juiced up. He got juiced up, his team juiced him up, whoever they are. That's my view. I don't think he had anything to do with it.
They'll have a different view on that, of course.
And I don't mind them coming. Yeah. You know what? Please come and talk to me. Because if you do, then we can get more things out in the open. Hold on. We can get more things out in the open. That's one. Two, where Harlem is concerned, he's 19 fights. He's unbeaten. He's the Eubank that you want. So this promoter, who is somehow got him as some type of... He's not doing anything. He's in no man's land. And now he's fighting a guy called Pete Dobson. Yeah. Who is this guy? I'm looking at him. Hold on. I'm looking at him, this Dobson, and I'm looking at, back in the day, they used to use a term, okay? Ooh, I think they may have dug that one up. He may still be warm. That's the type of fighter he's fighting. I don't disrespect him, but I'm talking about how the game goes. Right. They dug him up, okay, and he is still warm. Okay? That's how they talk about the Pete Dobson of my era, which is why I don't speak about Mr. Smith.
But you know the economics of how this
You're
works.
again,
No, but let's be real. Let's not be idealistic.
No,
Chris.
no,
Let's
I
be
can't
realistic.
look at the economics, because if I look at the economics,
But
then you're
they-
bringing me into
but
the world
they do.
of cheats.
No,
But I can't do that. Not with my nephew, who is my son, and not with my son, who is junior. I can't get into the economics.
They're talking about Haaland, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that Connor fights Haaland.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or you don't like it, and I know that you believe that you were instrumental in stopping the first fight. It wasn't just that Connor failing a drug test; it was your will, right? And so it's proven to be the case they haven't fought. But to get Haaland in the ring with Connor, the economics will dictate, not your will and not your wishes, whether Hearn and his gang, that I know that you have respect for, but don't like the way they're operating in certain respects with your son. If the economics aren't there, you're not getting Haaland and Conor Benn in the ring anytime soon.
And why wouldn't the economics be there?
Why would they?
Why would they? Because I'm standing with him. Yeah, me.
So it's about you.
Now get this clear. Yes.
Okay.
It's about you.
You have to have a promoter. You have to have a face that draws. I've made hundreds of millions of pounds for Sky Television, hundreds of millions of pounds for ITV, hundreds of millions of pounds for Matchroom. Who put them there? Who do you think put them there? I'm not bigging myself up. 1994, I brought Barry Hearn into Sky. They gave me an 8-fight deal. How do you think the fishing? How do you think the darts? How do you think he rose in Matchroom? You have to have someone to bring you in. Yeah, look, Punisher, right? Yes,
Okay,
the dreadlocks.
that's great.
Yeah, it may be great. You say so,
but it's also
but
everyone's a catalyst, and everyone finds their levels. And I suspect that Barry Hearn was also instrumental in some of the successes you had alongside your talent.
Of course, he was.
Right. Okay.
Only here's the difference. Okay.
Yeah.
He got me. I didn't get part of Matchroom, but let me tell you what. In my view, Matchroom. You think any of those guys, the CEOs, and you think these chairmen, you think they could have a position? If I wasn't there at that time, I couldn't have done what I did without Barry Hearn.
Yes.
Okay.
Mutual benefit, yeah.
But
so you're saying, Chris, that your name is the reason that Harlem, your nephew, should go in against Conor Benn?
Well, let me tell you what person on earth who watches boxing is not going to take, who's not going to buy a pay-per-view if I am with Harlem? I'm telling you that he beats Conor Benn. He beats him. Okay, that means I put my reputation behind him. That means the hundreds of millions of pounds I've made for these networks, that person is sitting next to him.
What if it can't happen here in the UK?
What if it can't? This is what I would say to that. Where his license is concerned, I get involved, I get his license back. But in doing so, I'm gonna have to.
You get Ben's license back?
Yeah.
How are you going to do that?
I know the boss. I'm very close to the boss.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Smith is a sensible man, but the
I'm
point
not
is...
talking about Robert Smith.
Okay, who are you talking about then?
I can't tell you.
Okay. All right, well, we'll try and work that one back. So I'm trying to think who you may be talking about. But this is a public domain matter now, isn't it?
It follows what I said about the fight not happening the first time. Again, everyone seems to forget that I said what I said. And in fact, think of it. If I've made all this money for all these networks, Matchroom, Sky, ITV, you've seen what happens when I come into the studio. Credibility. You see, how did I get that credibility? It's being honest.
Well, your achievements. Your achievements.
Yeah, but the achievements.
I think we should be honest as well.
You had no achievements.
We should be honest as well, though, Chris. Should Harlem get the fight? Should not on the back of your name? Should he not get the fight on merit, on his own merit?
And that's exactly what I'm saying. He's 19 fights unbeaten on merit and merit alone. He should have that fight. Why should it be given to somebody else?
Okay. So after he fights Dobson, you think Conor Benn should fight your nephew, Harlem Eubank?
Yes. Yes, I do. And then the winner of that fight then can go and clean up the world. And I know it's me. I read a comment the other day. It went something as follows. I love the relationship between Eubank Jr. and Eubank Sr. Jr., silent and deadly. He's a killer. He doesn't say anything. And the dad comes in strutting. He's rolling his shoulders. He's dancing. He's reciting poetry. It's the perfect combination. And that's what Harlem now has with his dad, his surrogate dad. So, as much as you may not like the control that I say I have on this.
I don't have a view on it.
Well, you have one now. I would like.
I don't have a view on it.
Well, this is the narrative.
I have a view on whether the fight can be made. And whether,
why can't it be made? They're both 147. And as
I'll
I
tell you the
said,
reasons
Junior
why.
is now walking around at 187 pounds. It is madness.
But let's move. I've always been in total agreement with you.
You have
a total agreement with you, and you'll never. No, I've always been in total agreement with you. Either you haven't listened, or I haven't made it clear. I've always been in total agreement with you.
At the end of our interview, when we last had that interview on your show up front,
don't point,
you
Chris,
said
that's rude.
You said like this. So you're going to stop it? How are you going to do that?
Because I thought what you were saying was ridiculous, and
yes,
I still do.
Yeah. So okay. So now the third face or the second face shows.
No, it doesn't. It's the same face.
It does. You
just don't like what you just don't like what I'm saying.
Well, earlier on, Chris, you said
if it doesn't make sense,
I have never agreed. Hang on, Jim. I have never agreed. I have never agreed that your son should be fighting Conor Benn. Never agreed with that. Now we move on to the Haaland Conor Benn fight. Never. I thought it was a bad fight for both of them. I thought all they were doing was trading off your...
You said to me, how are you going to stop it?
No, to be fair, I've heard them say that,
But that's two different things, Chris. You're conflating two different arguments. My point is the Haaland fight, Haaland Eubank fight against Conor Benn doesn't happen for two reasons. The economics aren't there. You may think that you can get them. And Conor Benn has a serious problem about being able to overcome the British Boxing Board of Control's wishes because they've gone public domain with it. Now, I hope he does. Then if he does... then we can have that conversation. Okay. But at no point have I ever said that your son should fight Conor Benn at 160. I thought it was a freak show of a fight. Always thought it was.
Well, it doesn't seem to me that you have been...
Well, listen then. Because I've said it repeatedly, and we've discussed it repeatedly, you and I, on two separate occasions.
No, we haven't discussed it repeatedly. And again, I say to you, you talk out of two sides of your face.
No, I don't. One. Straight down the line, like you. Straight down the line. Don't need to.
I know what you are.
You don't.
Okay, I am not. I haven't been.
I'm a journalist. Last time you saw me, apparently, according to you.
Listen to what he's saying.
Chris, look at me.
Hold on a minute.
What is he then? What is he?
Two-faced, according to him.
What is he? He says he's not a journalist.
Never mind him. You said you know what he is. What is he?
He's a journalist. He's a journalist, and a journalist trying to actually get traction.
I'm going to go and have a wash now.
He's trying to get traction in the world of gladiators.
I'm climbing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes, you are.
Don't be so bloody silly. I don't need you for anything.
Explain that.
I don't need you.
I didn't say you needed me.
Anything.
I didn't say you needed me.
So I don't climb on anyone's shoulders. So if you're going to make specific observations about people, be right.
I am right.
You're not right. You're not right.
Hold on. If you're saying you're not a journalist, then either I don't know what the word journalist means, or you are deluded.
Or both. Or both.
Now, Chris, what we can do is this.
Is he a journalist?
You said it. You said
no.
I'm a journalist.
He's a journalist.
So what is he?
A pundit,
an entrepreneur, a businessman, like yourself.
He paid me money to come to a studio and sit down and have an interview.
Well, he didn't
He's
do it personally.
Huh?
You were paid to go there and be interviewed by Simon.
We had a chat.
You had a chat.
We had a chat.
But Simon didn't pay you.
Who? So it was
as far as I got.
On whose account was it? On whose account was I there? Simon.
I have no idea.
Simon, I'm sorry to be the first one to tell you, and they do the pronoun thing. I ain't doing that. You are a journalist.
Thank you.
You interview people.
Got to do with it? I have a discussion with you, not an interview. We had a discussion.
No, you're a journalist.
Okay. We're getting hung up on something.
The fact of the matter is, Chris, earlier on you said Conor Benn's people had juiced him up. We've got to say that Conor Benn's people are not here to answer for themselves, so we need to make that clear.
I'm willing to come back on this show at any point with them. Well, what happened?
That's your
assertion.
How
did that happen?
But meantime, Eddie Hearn appears to think that it could still happen, a fight between Conor and Chris Eubank Jr. And we'll hear a bit more about that as we take a sharp intake of breath.
Don't do that. Whew. Bro, I told you, that was Hollywood. That was Hollywood stuff. Those two people, Simon Jordan and Chris Eubank Sr., box office Hollywood shit. I mean, Frank Warren was alright. Frank Warren showed he was angry, but this one, you could just see Eubank winding him up. And Simon just biting back, or Eubank biting back at Simon. It's funny. Call him a journalist, call him a two-faced, whatever. Call him all sort of names. It's mad. But then now we move on to football side of things with Martin Keown, with Simon Jordan. This was funny. This was a funny one.
Okay, so we've got to be careful how we handle them. We can't overload them. Is that good management, Martin? from
Absolutely,
Gareth?
absolutely.
Why?
Because it's about protecting for the future. And that's what he's trying to do. This is sort of Team England. Jude Bellingham is obviously a huge talent. He maybe not be needed in the next couple of internationals. They've hardly had any kind of a break. And I think it's the manager being protective. As much as he wants to bring somebody else in, maybe a Stones right now, who hasn't played yet, who he does feel needs minutes, who he does believe in, I understand that as well. So, no, I think it's right and proper. I'm not sure Greenwood is in the same boat at the moment because, he's not quite performing to the same level, but he's another one again for the future. And if Southgate feels he needs to do that, I think it's right and proper for him to make those decisions.
Simon?
Well, player welfare will always be the drum that Martin bangs. And he's right to in some instances and not necessarily in others. Bellingham, I can understand the case because, once upon a time, young players like Wayne Rooney came through into Everton's first team and people like David Moyes managed them at very early stages in their career. Greenwood was picked for the European Championships and had to come out because he wasn't fit enough or was injured as a result of or not able to be able to compete because of the level of injury that he had. So I'm not entirely sure why he would need to come out of the squad now. Look, Southgate will have, as England manager, an endless level of opinion on whatever he does or doesn't do. So who he picks for the squad and why he needs to manage players are based upon what he thinks and what he sees, and I would imagine the discussions that he has with the club managers and what he thinks is for the benefit of the young players and their development into the full national side. So I'm not overly worried about it. I'm not overly worried about saying, well, this is a bit of a snowflake mentality, or it's a bit lightweight, or these players, should be able to perform at this level. I think it's just a case of if he thinks it's the right thing to do, then let's worry about
management, Martin.
Absolutely,
from
absolutely.
Why?
Because it's about protecting for the future. And that's what he's trying to do. This is sort of Team England. Else in, maybe a Stones right now, who hasn't played yet. He's another one again for the future. And if South...
Because, once upon a time, young players like Wayne Rooney came through into Everton to compete because of the level of injury that he had. So I'm not entirely sure why he would need to come out of the squad now. Look, Southgate will have, as England manager, an endless level of opinion on whatever he does or doesn't do. So who he picks for the squad and why he needs to manage players are based upon what he thinks and what he sees, and I would imagine the discussions that he has with the club managers and what he thinks is for the benefit of the young players and their development into the full national side. So I'm not overly worried about it. I'm not overly worried about saying, well, this is a bit of a snowflake mentality, or it's a bit lightweight, or these players, should be able to perform at this level. I think it's just a case of if he thinks it's the right thing to do, then let's worry about what the performance on the pitch is when the team are playing on the pitch, because right now it's very difficult to criticise what England are doing on the pitch. So why do we need to pull to pieces the squad assembly because he happens to leave a couple of players out for reasons that might have good...
But you've been critical of the past of certain players for
I've
England.
been critical of Gareth Southgate in the past because I don't think anyone could have got a luckier set of charms born under a four-leaf clover with the draws that have got you into the semi-finals of the World Cup and the finals of the European Championship, and yet we come out with neither one of them in our pocket as a win, which I think they should have done. I'd be critical of him selecting people to take penalties that haven't taken penalties in professional football in a final of the European Championship. You can criticise his inability to change the team in the Croatian semi-final in the first World Cup that he was involved in as a manager. All of those are fair game and honest criticisms, but to pick the bones out of who he selects...
It's unfair. I think England have progressed hugely. Where are we ranked now?
That's not the point I'm making, though, is it? That's not the point I'm making. No, the argument wasn't framed in have they progressed. The argument was framed
There'd be scrutiny.
Is there fair
There's scrutiny with
at...
every manager.
Of course.
But this one's performing very well. And he's been quite magnificent in the way that he's leading this team.
Yeah.
Yes, he fell at the final hurdle at Wembley against Italy, and maybe reflecting on that, maybe we went with the wrong shape to begin with. We took a step backwards into the way that we played tactically,
or whether he went with the wrong tactics, formation, feel-good factor, whatever it is that he did. You get to a European Championship final, you have an opportunity to win it. You have a draw that people would pray for. In most instances, he's had two major tournaments where the draws have gone absolutely in his favour. From the World Cup, the group that we had, through to the draws that we had to get to a semi-final, the only teams that we perhaps couldn't beat or
Simon,
shouldn't beat were Belgium and Croatia.
Our first game in the Euros was against one of the finalists in the previous World Cup. I don't think that's necessarily a kind draw. Okay, there's one or two players
as they were, not as they are now.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's you're straight into the deep end, and you've got, it was a performance straight away. Perhaps the most disappointing performance was against Scotland, but apart from that, the Germany game, I thought England really did well in this.
They did. It doesn't mean that someone's beyond reproach.
I feel I'm going to say this. I feel the tactics weren't quite right. And we scored after sort of 2 or 3 minutes, and that almost spoiled us into thinking, okay, Italy, you come on to us now. When actually we needed to change the numbers in midfield. Our midfield were brilliant, but we were being outnumbered. It was a tactical thing. I'm pretty certain they've trolled through it, and Gareth Southgate will learn from this because he's very good at learning things. He doesn't make mistake twice. So no,
But he didn't change it against Croatia, did he? He needed to change it in the first half against Croatia in the World Cup semi-final. They were poor and we were very good. In the second half, they changed up and we didn't change. In the final against the Italians, the same thing happened for different reasons. They got control of the ball, they passed us off the pitch, and we didn't do anything to change it.
Yeah, but if I was stood there in his place, I fully understood why he wanted to stick with what he had. Because really, if you remember, we gave the ball away from a corner, back pass, went out of play, and we broke incredibly and scored right the other end after just 2 or 3 minutes. It was the first time the Italians had come out, and only time. And it was okay, I can understand then why you sort of stick with it. But yeah, it needed to change it. But that's us being really picky and reflecting and looking back.
They battered us, Martin. From the 35th minute up onwards, they battered us. Battered us and battered us and battered us and battered us, and we waited until eventually they scored, and then we changed. Now, if you want to be ultra critical, which I'm being, because that's what it takes to win things, you get to a European Championship final at home, in virtually a home tournament, with the draw that we had, you've got to say, wow, the England managers that are better heeled than him, that would have loved to have had that opportunity, that would have won this tournament with the resources that he had available to him. And I think that's right to poke. But what I do agree with you on, I don't think it's right to suddenly to start to move the criticism into why is he omitting young players? Because he's the England manager and that's what he chooses to do. And if that subsequently affects the performance on the pitch, then we can have that debate. But currently, it isn't, because the World Cup qualifiers that we're playing in, we look a decent side, don't we?
We definitely
So the
do.
argument that we're sitting here saying, let's pick him to pieces because he's dropped Greenwood and Bellingham because they're younger, is the exact right argument to say that's
in the
not
past
right.
had an issue with the debate of player welfare. Even yesterday we were talking about Thomas Tuchel saying after 8 games, mentally our team's not right.
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do.
So that's what we're talking about now.
I have an issue with the idea that after 8 games the players are mentally fatigued, and there's a challenge in my mind that's suggesting that should be the case. But by the same token, these players are playing lots of games.
No, you need to change your mind, Simon.
Why?
Because every time I listen to you on the show, you're always barking about players. You need
Observing.
to love your players.
Yeah.
You have to love your players. You can't look at the players and think, okay, they're earning too much money. You have to understand the players. You need to change your mind on it. That's what you need to do.
But hang on a second, Martin. Who am I barking at? The players or the manager? Because who said it? The players or the manager? The manager said the players are fatigued. So I'm not barking at the players. I'm looking at the manager going, you've got a squad of 25 high-quality footballers that you're rotating. You've got players that expect to be remunerated and looked after in a certain way, and it has to come into effect.
But
just because you live in an ideal world,
the first
where
thing
it
you
doesn't
say,
come
the
into
first thing
it.
you say, well, what do you mean they're fatigued? The players are fatigued. No, the manager's telling you they're fatigued. So we just take that on board professionally.
Normally on the back of a defeat.
Yeah, but professionally, the players do need to be. I mean, look at Jack Wilshere. He's probably one of the best talents we've seen come out of English football for many years. He's 29 years of age now, and he's not playing football. Mm-hmm. He's played too much football. We have Arsene Wenger telling us he regrets. Every day he regrets the amount of football he made in play as a young man. We have to listen to that.
Yeah, but it's lovely utopian helicoptering perspective, but the only reason they play so many games is because the structure of football is balanced in such a way that the economics don't make any sense. So the games have to keep on expanding. I don't disagree. If you keep pushing people to play so many games, then ultimately you're going to break down one or two things, either the physical capability or the product quality. So we're in agreement there. But you also have to look at the reasons why. And you're saying I'm barking at players. No, I'm barking at or if you call it barking, I'm observing stridently on the basis of what's being said. Every time a manager comes out and talks about mental fatigue, it's normally on the back of a defeat. It's normally in preparation for a poor performance. So we as a public sitting there watching it going, young athletes, and I listen to people like Danny Murphy who have a right to have an opinion as well, that sit there with the same vantage point that I have as an ex-footballer, because I didn't kick footballs and you did, and you can always win that argument, saying he doesn't have that argument either. He thinks it's a load of old tosh. He thinks that we have to look at it from the pragmatic point of view of suggesting that some of that is just nonsense. You have a different view, but it's not barking, it's observing and putting it through a critical ringer.
Yeah, but they're facts, you know.
They're not facts, are they?
They are, because it's a fact that if you're going to keep playing too many games, you're going to end up with injuries, you're going to end up with fatigue, and it's about rest and about the manager picking a journey through
that. If you
that.
compress the fixture list, you'll see more injuries. Last year, they didn't see more injuries, they saw less. So where's the facts then? Because we were compressing last year's season on the back of COVID, this year's season, i.e. 1920, then 2021, and the facts bore out that there were less injuries.
But Gareth's in a very fortunate position. He can rest players because of the squad
is
doing.
On that.
Yeah, he's doing exceptionally well. But I do feel that we need to. I'm just trying to change your opinion, because it's kind of like, get back to loving players. You had a situation when you were at Palace, and you came out of there. You paid good money for players. I don't want to turn this into a row, but you've now seemed to have, it seems to have darkened your vision, view of players.
That's not true at all.
A little bit.
I call players for what they are. I'm a great lover and admirer of Mason Greenwood. I look at players, I look at Mason Mount, I look at players, and when I see a player of character and substance and backbone and decency, I'll call it for what it is. If I see a lightweight player, if I see Riyad Mahrez going on strike, I'll have something to say about that, because I think it's right to say. I think you build characters. There's not enough characters and substance in football, because too many people are sitting there being lightweight about how the players need to be managed and how they need to be looked after. They need to do their jobs well, and people need to make sure that they're able to do their jobs well. And I think on the whole, players are wrapped in cotton wool and looked after very, very well. You might disagree with that, but that's my view. And it's not a case of dark, and it's got nothing to do with my experiences at Palace. That's you conflating one issue with another to try and take a popular view of the fact I might have a dim view of certain players. Not true at all.
Wrapped in cotton wool, the top clubs, it doesn't happen. You don't carry people. This leadership.
Martin,
it's about leadership.
It's
about leadership and standard that you have set within a football club, and people follow you. Your work ethic, how you work in the club, and that needs to come to the manager. In this instance, Gareth Southgate setting the standard. He's saying, look, okay, I'm going to rest you, but I'm going to need you. I'm going to bring you back. So it's about managing that.
And we agree on that.
100%.
All right, that's round one. I think there's plenty more to come from you two. That was quite exciting just listening into that. This is Talk Sport.
Yo, listen to Simon Jordan. Just listen to him, what he says, the stuff he comes out with. He's making a lot of sense. Like, it's proper old school. The guy's old school, man. And in reality, a lot of us agrees with him. Hello? It's not time yet. It's not time yet. It's not time yet. A lot of us agrees with what Simon says on TalkSport, and it fits in with every narrative he's ever created around the way players want to be handled, the way out the game has gone soft, whatever, ownership, you know. But that's the Simon Jordan that, if you go back to the beginning of this stream, you can see everything, you can hear everything what proper boxing said there about him. It's just the guy, you know. And you can also have a laugh. You can take it. He gives it and takes it. So fair play to the man himself. But yeah, he's a Terminator. He's that guy. Who you think it is? He's him. Where's the madness? Aria, don't do that. Let's not do that. Here we are. I'll just go back to leave you with the clip of which is like what is it? An 8-minute clip of proper boxing and Simon Jordan, who is the real Simon Jordan.
I'm a bit of a Terminator. I don't stop. You know, I won't stop until I get to what I want. I'm not controversial. I speak my mind.
It's a trait that people in this country don't do, so it's called controversial.
Yes, he seems to have exploded onto the scene. A man with unrestricted views and opinions on everything football, boxing and sports in general. Is he the voice of reason? Has he got a dodgy haircut? But most importantly, where did he come from? You love him or you hate him, but who really is the man behind the mouth? Mr. Simon Jordan. Bloody hell, I've told my editor time and time again, that's not Simon Jordan. Nigel, will you fucking sort it out? Sorry. That's better. Yes, here he is, Mr. Simon Jordan.
Great.
Born on the 24th of September 1967 in Thornton.
As people, as journalists, like people like Simon Jordan, this is what they do. Sometimes they'll say things that you don't like. Sometimes they'll call people out. They'll, you know, but it's part of the business. Sometimes they'll go after people that gives them the traction, the channels. You know, yeah. My daughter is here. Sorry, she's screaming. Don't put your foot there. No, no, no. Put it back down. It's just gonna drop. But anyway, Simon and the rest of them will say things that will get attraction and bring people views and listeners to their channels, and they'll make money. That's part of it. And he's sharing his experience from real life when he used to be in football. He got the club promoted and he got them relegated, and they went bust or whatever he did with that situation. You can find that video, or you can play this back from the beginning. It tells you exactly what happened, what he did, and what happened to Crystal Palace before it got sold. And also he dived into Tyson Fury and his health issues. Frank Warren came back and forth with him. Chris Eubank Senior. It's just banter. The guy's funny. It's hilarious. He's also a serious man. He's also a serious businessman. So I'll leave you with that, whether I like him or hate him. This is Simon Jordan. Thank you for watching.